Welcome back for another Blacksburg Buzz. Got a couple things up on the agenda for today. We're going to be talking about the Hokies women's basketball roster and some updates there. A little bit on Liz Kitley at the WNBA draft. Then a little bit on the men's basketball roster. So to start off, we have heard two reaffirmations of the commitment for the women's basketball team. We'd heard earlier, about a week or two ago, that Samaya Suffren and Karis Baker would both be coming back, but we hadn't heard anything officially from them. So in the last week, we did get two Instagram posts, one from each of them, restating that yes, they'll be coming back next year, there's nothing to worry about, and they're excited for another great season. So Samaya Suffren and Karis Baker officially coming back, no questions at all there, which is certainly a relief, as that's two more players Tech gets to have a little bit of continuity with into the next year, and two big pieces of the success from last year, and I think they're set and primed to take big steps forward in the next season. So glad to hear from those two that they'll both be coming back. And Megan Duffy also pulled in one of her Marquette signees in the last 24 hours, Leila Wells, 5'9" guard who she'd recruited at Marquette but did end up pulling over to Virginia Tech. Just recently, she had opened up her recruiting once again after finding out that Duffy was leaving Marquette and, kept in communication with her and decided that Virginia Tech was the place to be. She wanted to stay with her coach that she was planning on playing for in college and join a great program and a great team. So glad to have Leila Wells on the squad. That makes 8 players on the roster currently. So they've got 7 more spots left to fill. Now, Wells, one of the top players out of the state of Michigan. She is extremely fast and agile, which is one thing that is going to be fantastic for Tech. With Wenzel, Suffren, and Wells, running the point, this team is going to be really fast, really agile, really shifty. I mean, Wells might actually be faster than the other two, and that's going to create a ton of problems for opponents in transition. I mean, when you've got 3 really fast guards like that, and then a bunch of other talented players, if they can have another top-notch defense and really anchor it down, force a lot of turnovers, this team is going to be ridiculous in the transition game. Obviously, losing Georgia Amore is going to hurt them significantly in that aspect, as one of probably the fastest, quickest, most shifty, she has a motor and it never stops running on Amore. She's always on the court, always going fast. But pulling in Wells is a good way to try and fill that gap. A former hurdle state champion in high school, so she's definitely got the wheels to keep up with the best of the best. I mean, I think Wells is a really solid addition to this crew. In addition to her speed and quickness, she's also a good shooter. She shot the 3 pretty well, so she does fit that aspect of Tech's game as well, where, they've been a really good 3-point shooting team, and that's one of the areas where they've excelled over the last couple years. When they're knocking down the 3, they're pretty much unstoppable. Now, they don't have the same paint presence that they used to, but they do keep Rose Mishaw, who's going to be a big help down low, and Maya Hazelton is really tall as well, 6'4" forward. I mean, they should be set up for a pretty decent season considering everything that's gone down. Within the ACC, I think Notre Dame is going to be a real problem the next couple of years. I mean, they've built a very talented squad. They were hard enough to stop even when the whole team was healthy last year, but with a lot of turnover and, their players, a lot of them sticking around, they're going to be a tough team to play in the ACC, but I think Tech is going to be set up to be pretty solid, all things considered, and I think they're going to have a good year down the run when we look back and see, hey, you switched a head coach who had to bring in a whole new coaching staff, apparently. Many of the assistant coaches have followed Kenny Brooks to Kentucky. So you're looking at essentially a whole new staff and quite a few new players being forced to come in. A lot of new recruits joining the team. So, with everything happening with so much turnover, I still think Tech's going to have a pretty decent season next year. They're a little bit guard heavy at the moment. They've got, I think, 4 guards and 2 wings and then a couple of forwards. So they do need to fill out the post side of the roster a little bit more, but there's plenty of time to do that. They've got 7 spots to fill, so just got to let Duffy keep working the recruits and seeing who she can pull in. Now, moving over to the WNBA draft, happened earlier last week. Expecting Liz Kitley to go a little higher than she did, but the second round with the 24th overall pick to the Las Vegas Aces. Just an amazing way to, cap off her career at Virginia Tech, going in the draft. I really think she could have gone a lot higher had she not gotten injured. I think that truly did tank her stock, as, odds are she's going to be rehabbing for the entirety of her first season. If Virginia Tech had her and been able to make a little bit deeper of a run, I think she easily could have gone top 15 and, perhaps a top 10, maybe like a 7 to 10 spot, I would probably say. But, fantastic career at Virginia Tech from her. Really excited to see what she can do in Las Vegas once she's back to full strength. I think the Aces drafted a pretty good team with their 4 picks in the draft. Their first one went to Deasia Fair out of Syracuse, who I'm sure Tech fans are very familiar with. Being another ACC school, we saw Fair quite a bit. She is very good, very quick, a bit undersized when looking at the entire draft. I think she was one of the shorter players in the draft, in the mid 5-foot range. But Fair, very talented defender and very talented scorer as well. She was kind of Syracuse's rock this year. They had some great players to surround her, but Deasia Fair was kind of the big name you wanted to look out for whenever you were playing Syracuse. They also drafted Kate Martin from Iowa and Angel Jackson from Jackson State. So 3 picks for the Aces, plus Kitley to make it 4. I think they drafted pretty well. Fair and Kitley, 2 of the best in the ACC. And, we'll have to see what the Aces can do, but congratulations to Liz Kitley on being drafted. Congratulations as well to her with her jersey being retired in one of the football games coming up this fall. She had a fantastic career at Virginia Tech, and I'm really excited to see what she can do in the WNBA in Las Vegas. So big congrats to her. That's an amazing accomplishment, honestly. So flipping over to men's basketball, Rodney Brown Jr. will be joining the team from Cal. 6'6", freshman 2 guard. He played in all 32 games last season, averaged 3.5 points, 1 rebound, playing 14 minutes per game. So we didn't see a lot of Rodney Brown Jr. at Cal in his freshman year, but in his limited minutes, I do think that he made a pretty solid impact. He was shooting nearly 40% from 3. He was also efficient from the floor and the free throw line. I believe he was hovering around the 40 to 50% from the floor and about 86% from the line. Depending on where you look, he was a 3 or a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. So, in his limited minutes at Cal, he did make an impact. He had a couple of double-digit scoring games. So, he performed well when he had the minutes and, the team was getting him the ball. But that wasn't happening all too often being a freshman on that team. So, we'll see what type of impact he can make for Tech in the coming season. Joining as a sophomore, we'll have to look how his development shows and, how he molds well with the rest of this team. Got a couple other roster updates as well. Ivy Curry is retaining his eligibility, but he did declare for the draft. So, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with him if he does get drafted. I assume he's, going to be in the NBA next year. If not, he'll be back. So he was one of those guys that I'm kind of high on for next year. I think he's going to perform really well for the Hokies. I could see him being one of Mike Young's guys that he's really going to bring the best out of coming out of UTSA. I really think Mike Young can elevate his game. He's a great scorer. So hopefully we have him next year for Virginia Tech's sakes. But we'll have to see what happens with the draft. And then a couple of former Hokies, Tyler Nickel and MJ Collins, have both signed with Vanderbilt, so we do know their destinations finally. With Nickel, I'm not surprised at all. We did hear some rumors that he might be heading over to Vanderbilt, that he got a great deal on NIL, and, he could be a guy to elevate their program and really play some serious extended minutes. He played quite a bit for Tech this season, but, jumping up into that consistent starting role, and I imagine he's getting a big check there as well. So with Nickel, that doesn't surprise me at all, hearing the rumors that he might be going to Vanderbilt. With MJ Collins, that did shock me a little bit. I hadn't heard anything about where he may end up for next year, and seeing just the picture of him rocking some Vanderbilt gear really caught me off guard, having not heard any rumors about it and just not somewhere where I felt like he was going to end up. So they'll be teamed up once again next year at Vanderbilt. Have to see how they do overall. But Virginia Tech is slowly bringing in guys to fill out the roster. They have about half of it full with Brown Jr., Ivy Curry, brought in Burnham from Charleston, and keeping a couple guys from last year, Patrick Wessler, Malijal Poteet, Jaden Young, Brandon Recksteiner. So keeping some of the squad around and pulling in a few others. We'll have to see what they can make of this team with so many new faces coming to the roster and a lot of young guys as well just coming into the program. So, they're going to have a tough road ahead of them, but if anyone can get a decent record out of a team, it's going to be Mike Young. I mean, he's a great coach for a reason. He always brings the best out of his players, and hopefully he can continue doing that, and Tech can, make a good season out of a tough spot that they're in. So a lot of stuff to look forward to next year. A lot of mystery with, a very new men's basketball team, a new head coach on the women's side. So a lot of uncertainty ahead, but I think there is a little bit of optimism surrounding these programs, especially the women's team. Once Kenny Brooks left, there was kind of a feeling around town that this was it for women's basketball. But with signing a good coach in Megan Duffy with, a couple of good recruits and some conversations going around, and then retaining a lot of the team, I'm optimistic about this next year. And I think, we could turn two pretty solid programs out in the 2024-25 season. So looking forward to that. Until then, baseball and softball still going on. Softball has been killing it. We'll get a little more coverage on them coming out here soon. And baseball, really tough series with Duke this weekend. Lost 2 of the 3 games. At least 2 of them went into extra innings. So I'll have a recap about that shortly once I've really sat and processed these games. But a lot going on in tech sports, and still working on that Sons of Saturday episode, so you are not going to want to miss that. I'll keep everyone updated out on all the social medias about what's going on, when we'll be recording and whatnot. But until then, enjoy some sports. Hopefully the baseball team can get back on track, and we'll be set up for success here in Blacksburg. So until next time, thanks for tuning in to the Blacksburg Buzz.